Day 41. Symptom curve continues uniform across all 45 personnel. Sleep duration up another 16 minutes per 24-hour cycle. Cognitive task throughput down 19% from baseline. I am noting these figures and I am noting that I am too tired to find them alarming. The team is not panicking. They cannot any longer reach the part of themselves that knows how to panic. I'm reading my own log entries from 40 days ago and I do not recognize the person who wrote them. I'm going to attempt the hypothesis test in the morning, if I have the strength.
Dr. Eli Marchetti. Communications and atmospheric data. Station crew. Name on the wall outside the comms bay. That entry was recorded 42 years and 12 hours ago. He did not perform the hypothesis test in the morning. He recorded 6 more entries, each shorter than the last. And then he stopped recording. You will hear that entry again before this episode is finished. By then, you will know what we know. Chapter 1. The Records Bay. I found Cross in the Records Bay at 06:20 ship time. 9 hours at the recovered terminal. The screen in front of him was a wall of audio waveforms, 6 of them stacked vertically, each shorter than the one above it. The bottom one was 12 seconds long. He was looking at it as if the silence after it were something he could read. I set the second cup of coffee down next to his elbow. He did not look at it. He did not look at me. Harlan?
I heard you come in.
I let the silence sit because I did not want to be the one to break it before he was ready. He played the next entry without warning.
Day 43. Test postponed. I was not able to leave my bunk before the second meal interval. Telmes performed the morning shift coverage. Telmes is approximately 70% of baseline. I am estimating myself at 42%. The math no longer goes in only one direction. Hypothesis remains air filtration anomaly. Test apparatus still assembled in Lab 3. I have asked Wade to perform the test if he is able. Wade is approximately 51% of baseline.
Cross stopped the playback.
He did not perform the test either?
Way
Stopped, logging the same day. Marchetti recorded 3 more entries. Then he stopped also.
I asked the question I'd been carrying since the boarding. What was he hypothesizing, Harlan?
Air.
He had been waiting for that question. For 42 years, possibly. He had not been able to say the thing aloud until someone asked. Cross pulled up the station's environmental records. 6 weeks of filtration efficiency data, neat and continuous, declining at a rate so gradual that no automated system on any station I have ever flown to would have generated a single flag. The numbers on the screen looked like a system aging quietly and within tolerances.
This is what an air filtration system looks like when nothing is wrong with it.
And?
Marchetti thought the absence of anomaly was the anomaly. He intended to bypass the readouts and sample the air directly the next morning. He did not get the morning he expected.
I sat down across from him. The records bay had 3 chairs. We had been using one.
I read every log entry in this archive last night. The medical bay entries, the duty rotations, the personal entries the crew left on their bunk terminals, messages they wrote to family they would not see again. There is one entry on this station that asks the right question. 1 out of 45 personnel, because by the time the others might have asked it, they were already too tired to.
I did not answer. There was nothing to answer with. The recyclers worked. The amber light from the dead corridor outside threw the room into the same underwater color the station had been in since we boarded. The waveforms on Cross's screen sat motionless, 6 of them descending. Chapter 2. The Timeline. We assembled in the records bay at ship mid-morning. Amara came back from the primary research console. 28 hours straight, no sleep. The particular focused gauntness of a person who has stopped asking the question of when she will stop. Saya arrived last and stood at the back of the room with her arms crossed and her face arranged in the expression she wears when she is paying very close attention and intends for nobody to know it. Cross had reconstructed the final 8 weeks of the station's operation from 4 terminal archives. Marchetti's, the medical officers, the station commander's deputy, and the duty officer's central rotation. The picture he had built was on the wall display, organized by week, every entry time-stamped and cross-referenced. He walked the room through it like a forensic pathologist walks a coroner's inquest through a finding.
Initial hypothesis pool, Dietary, viral, psychological. Blood work requested on 12 crew. I am told the lab will have results in 3 days. I am told this twice by the same technician, 3 minutes apart. She did not remember telling me the first time.
Week 5. Marchetti opens a formal investigation. 3 crew have begun sleeping 11 hours and finding it unusual. Initial hypothesis pool was dietary, viral, psychological. Blood work is requested and returned within 72 hours.
Blood work unremarkable. No inflammation markers, no infection markers, no toxicology hits on standard panels. I am tabling theory generation and beginning observation logging only. The data will speak for themselves or they will not.
Week 6. All 3 hypotheses ruled out. Marchetti's logs become more clinical. He stops including theories and begins including numbers only. Productivity station-wide has dropped 22%.
The most diagnostic anomaly in this environment is the absence of alarm in an environment whose conditions warrant alarm.
Amara, behind me, closed her eyes when she heard that line. Saya, at the back of the room, uncrossed her arms.
Week 8. The entries shorten dramatically. The final day contains 3 log entries totaling 68 words across 45 personnel. The last entry, Marchetti's, is 12 seconds long. He does not finish his last sentence.
Cross stopped. The room was very quiet.
Harlan, how does a population deteriorate uniformly?
It does not. Not in nature.
Then how?
I have a theory. I am not going to share it until I have ruled out the alternatives. I am asking you to give me 8 hours.
She gave him 8 hours. She did not ask for context. She turned and walked back toward the fault. Saya watched her go. Then Saya watched me watch Saya. Then Saya left the room as well, and I was alone with Cross and the wall of waveforms again. You already know.
I do, but I need proof.
Tell me when you can prove it.
I will tell you the moment I can.
I left him there. I went back to the fault. Through the corridor I had walked 4 times in 2 days, and I noticed for the first time that I had stopped looking at the bodies as I passed them. I do not know what to make of that. Chapter 3. Tomás and Cross. Cross came back to the fault in the late ship afternoon. He had not eaten in 20 hours. Tomás knew this because Tomás knows this kind of thing. A bowl of something appeared at the small round table that has become Cross's table without anyone deciding it had. Tomás did not ask about the station. He talked about his daughter, Lena, 13 on Connemara Station, Europa. 4 days since the last message he sent her. He told Cross what he had said in the message, what he was afraid she would say in reply if the reply came, and what he was afraid she would say if it did not. Cross listened. He ate 2 spoonfuls of whatever Tomás had put in front of him. When Tomás had finished, Cross asked one question.
How old is she?
13.
A beat. Cross looked at the bulkhead.
Petrov's daughter was 4 when he left. She is in her late 40s now. I think about that every time I close my eyes.
Tomás did not respond immediately. He topped up Cross's water. He sat with the silence, without flinching, without filling it.
Did he know at the end?
The logs do not say. He stopped being able to write before he would have been able to write about what mattered to him.
A long beat.
So you have been carrying her for him, the daughter.
Among others.
Tomás nodded slowly and stayed at the table for the rest of the meal. Cross ate more than he had intended to. When Cross stood to leave, he thanked Tomás by name. He had not done that with anyone else on the ship. Tomás told me about it later. He told me because I had asked him how Cross was holding, also because he wanted me to know Cross was still inside Cross somewhere, doing the work of being a man who had outlived a great many people he never got the chance to grieve. Tomás does not announce worry. He hands you the information you would need to do something about it, then waits to see whether you are paying attention. I always pay attention, if you are still with me, and I hope you are, because what Cross figures out in the next chapter is the part I have been trying not to say out loud since we found the bodies. I want to ask you something before we go in. 45 people lived on a station for some number of years. They came from different planets, different home countries, different jobs, different ages. Some had families and some did not. Some had been on station for over a decade, some less than 6 months. They all died at the same rate. What does it take to kill a group of people that uniformly? Not who, not why. How? Tell me in the comments. I read them. Subscribe if you have not. We are not slowing down from here. Chapter 4. The Autopsy Without a Body. Cross found me in the medical bay at ship evening. I'd been there for 2 minutes. I had not wanted to go in. I went in anyway because I needed to be somewhere I had not been yet, and the medical bay was the room I was most carefully not entering. He had drawn on the wall. He had used a black marker from a desk drawer he did not ask permission to open, on a wall belonging to a person who would not be asking him to clean it. A single smooth line, top left to bottom right, labeled in block letters. Symptom curve, station population, weeks 1A. Below it, in red, 3 more curves, each with a variance band. Pathogen, environmental, dietary. The natural cause curves were soft, broad, full of statistical air. They had outliers, they had stragglers, they had survivors who fell outside the curve entirely. Cross's reconstructed curve had none of that. A single line, no variance, no outliers, no survivors.
45 personnel, researchers, technicians, life support crew, men and women, the young and the older, the recently rotated in and the resident since the station's founding. All of them deteriorated along the same arc at the same rate to the same end. Nothing in nature does that, Declan. Nothing.
Then what does? He gave me one word.
Administration.
He held the word in the air for a beat to let me hear it the way he heard it.
A dose calibrated to the enclosed environment, delivered through a vector that reached every person at the same concentration, regardless of where they were on the station or what they were doing. The only system on a station this size that satisfies the second condition is air filtration. Nothing else delivers a uniform exposure to 45 people across 3 habitation rings and a research spine.
Can you prove it?
No.
He did not flinch when he said it.
The residue would have degraded inside 2 years. The filtration logs are within normal parameters because whatever was delivered was designed to remain within normal parameters. The dose was calibrated to a curve that looked like nothing in particular while it was happening. Slow enough to remain plausible as fatigue, then as deployment psychology, then as a still unidentified medical mystery. Fast enough that nobody had time to send a useful distress signal once they understood what was happening. Someone built a death that would not register as a death until it was over. And then they built a station that disappeared from sensors so nobody could come and check.
I leaned against the doorframe and waited. Who? Harlan. A pause, the longest he had ever taken in my company.
I'm not ready to say it out loud. I want you to understand the distinction. This is calibration. I know who. I've known since this morning. I'm waiting until I can name them in a way that gives us a next step, instead of a name that gives us a reason to be afraid.
When
I can, you will be the first to know.
All right. I took it. He had not given me what I wanted. He had given me what he had, in the order he had it, calibrated to a curve I trusted because I had watched him calibrate every other curve in his life with the same precision. I did not press. I stood in the doorway of the medical bay and looked at the line on the wall. A single smooth slope, top left to bottom right. 45 lives compressed into a curve so clean it had no business existing in any natural system. My father used to say, and I have been thinking about my father a great deal in the last 2 days, my father used to say that you can tell a deliberate thing from an accidental thing by how clean it looks afterward. Accidents are sloppy and leave fingerprints. The thing you should be afraid of, he said, is the wreckage that looks like it was designed. I left Cross in the medical bay with his marker and his wall. I went to find Saya. Chapter 5. The door she did not open. Saya was in Habitation Ring 3. The access pad was mounted in the bulkhead beside the locked door of the commander's quarters. The same panel she had touched once 2 days ago and gotten 3 seconds of data from before it locked her out. The login prompt blinked at chest height. She stood in front of it without touching the screen. None of the tools she would have packed for the work were out of their case. She was doing nothing in front of a door she could not open yesterday and cannot open today. I stopped at the far end of the corridor for half a minute before she registered me. She did not turn.
It is still locked.
I see that.
It will be locked tomorrow.
I know. She turned to face me without stepping toward me.
You are not going to ask me what is in there.
No.
Why not?
Because the moment I ask is the moment you have to give me an answer. You are not ready to give me an answer, and I am not ready to commit to whatever answer you would feel forced to give. We are not there yet. When we are, I will ask. You will tell me. And neither of us will pretend. She looked at me for a long time. Then she walked past me without saying anything else. I felt her not look back. I will tell you something about Sayakato that I have only just understood. And I want to be careful with it because I am not certain I am right. She was not trying to log in. She did not try yesterday either. And I had assumed yesterday that she was being cautious. More time, more tools, more privacy. I was wrong about that. She was not trying because she's not here to learn. She is here to confirm. She came to this station knowing what is behind that door. She does not need to open it. The lock is a checkpoint, not a question. She is reading the corridor around it for whether the seal is still intact. The way you walk past your old house years after you have moved out, not because you have lost something inside, but because you need to know the house is still standing. I am still trying to decide what to do with that. I did not push. I took her place at the pad, stood where she had stood, watched the login prompt blink for a beat, and filed the information. Chapter 6. Amara's Demonstration. Amara had not slept. I knew this because she had told me she would not sleep until she had run the calibration into the ground. And she had told me that with the matter-of-factness of a woman who was not negotiating with her own body so much as informing it of the schedule. The primary research console sat a half step lower than the surrounding deck, the way old labs sometimes were, designed to make the people inside feel they were stepping down into the work. She was at the principal station. The instrumentation map filled the wall in front of her. 31 sensors, every one of them lit, every one of them returning data. Cross was already there. I had not summoned him. He had come on his own, the way he came onto the bridge in the previous episode without being called. Amara did not look up when I came in. She finished her work for another 45 seconds. Then she pulled her hands back from the console, folded them in her lap, and turned her chair to face me.
I am going to run a demonstration. I have run it 26 times in the last 30 hours. The result has not changed. Watch what changes. Tell me what you see.
All right. She ran the test. The array map filled with returns. Every sensor lit at the same instant. Inner ring sensors, outer ring sensors, the hull array, the probes that had been seeded into the surrounding volume of space, probes that somehow were still alive, at distances of 1 kilometer, 10 kilometers, 100 kilometers. All of them returned the same signal, at the same moment, with 0 propagation delay between any two of them.
What do you see, Declan?
I see 31 sensors lighting up at the same time.
Sensors at different distances from each other.
Yes.
100 kilometers between the outermost probe and the innermost, at the speed of light that is approximately 333 microseconds of propagation delay. Every instrument we use measures with better resolution than that. The station's calibration runs measure with vastly better resolution than that. The timestamps do not differ by 333 microseconds, or by 1, or at all.
Amara.
The signal has no direction and no source. It exists at every point of measurement simultaneously, regardless of where the point is. No propagation, no travel, only presence.
Are you sure?
11,000 calibration runs across 42 years plus 26 in the last 30 hours. 11,026 identical results, I am sure.
I looked at the map, then the timestamps, then Cross. Cross was looking at Amara. Amara, what does that mean? She took the question. She did not deflect.
It means the framework I have been taught my entire career, that information requires a medium and a vector and a propagation speed, is missing something. The universe is allowing a thing it is not supposed to allow, or, more honestly, my model of what the universe is allowed to allow is incomplete. I do not have a framework for this yet. I am going to build one.
How long?
I do not know.
What do we do with it in the meantime? A pause. Amara looked at the array map. Then she looked at Cross.
I am going to keep recording, keep writing, and ask Harlan what he remembers, really remembers, about what the Ardennes saw before the systems went out.
Cross had been watching her. The expression on his face was one I had never seen on Cross before, and that ought to be saying something after 48 days.
I will tell you everything.
She nodded. She turned back to her console and started writing. Cross sat down in the second chair beside her. He did not move to leave. He had spent 42 years carrying a thing nobody had asked him to put down, and Amara had just asked, and he was going to put it down now. I left them. They did not need me there. I have flown long range with a lot of researchers and watched a lot of breakthroughs from the doorway. None of them looked like this. Amara is doing something else. She has been handed a piece of the universe that does not fit the rest of the universe she has built her career on, and she is sitting down to learn how it goes. Cross has been waiting 42 years for that posture. Chapter 7. The Common Room. We assembled in the common room of the Fault at ship night, all 5 of us. First time the 5 of us had been in a single room together since we had docked. Cross at the head of the table, the recovered terminal in front of him. He had carried it back across the airlock by hand. No cart, no suit kit, both hands, the way you carry a thing you do not want to drop. He plugged it into the common room display.
I am going to play you 6 entries. They are Marchetti's. They are the last 6 he recorded. Hear them in sequence, the way he left them, without commentary from me. Then I will play the last one again, and I will read it alongside the audio, because by then his voice has gone quiet enough that you will need both.
Nobody objected.
Test postponed. I have asked Wei to perform it. Wei will not. We are not going to learn the answer from inside the station. 3 additional crew unresponsive at morning rotation. Medical bay is no longer staffed. I have asked Tomás to consolidate the surviving log to one terminal. Tomás is not capable of complex tasks. I am going to do it myself. Consolidation incomplete. I am going to record what I can. The crew are sleeping. They are not dying in any way I can describe to a person who has not watched it. They are simply not coming back from sleep. I am going to be one of them shortly. I would like the record to reflect that none of us understood what was happening until we were already inside it. I do not have a word for what is happening. The word I would use is going. We are going. The station is not going. The station is staying. We are leaving the station while remaining inside it. If anyone finds this and is qualified to interpret what we recorded, the signal is not a signal. The signal is something else. Cross was right. Cross was right about all of it. Tell Cross.
Silence in the common room that I have not experienced before in a room with other people in it. Tomás looked at the table. Saya looked at Cross. Amara closed her eyes.
One more.
He played the final entry. He had the text version on screen alongside it. Marchetti's voice was very quiet by this point.
The hypothesis test is not going to happen. I am writing this entry to confirm that I am the last person in the records bay capable of writing an entry. The others are not asleep. They are not awake. I do not have a word for what they are. If anyone finds this, I do not believe it was an...
He did not finish the sentence. The system continued recording for 4 hours and 17 minutes after he stopped writing. The cursor blinked the entire time. He was alive when he stopped writing. He was alive when the network went down. He was alive when whoever was supposed to come for him stopped looking. He did not believe it was an accident. The sentence he wanted to finish was the name of what he believed instead, and he ran out of time before he could write it. I think we have a duty to finish it for him. Not today, but eventually, when we have earned the right.
Tomás reached across the table and put a hand on Cross's shoulder. He held it there a moment longer than necessary, then took it back. Cross did not look at him. He did not need to. Nobody spoke for a long time. After several minutes, Amara stood and went back to her console. Saya headed for her bunk. Tomás returned to engineering. I stayed in the common room with Cross. He sat at the head of the table and looked at the dark terminal in front of him and the blank screen where the cursor had stopped blinking sometime in the last few minutes. I do not know when it stopped. Chapter 8. What We Decided. I am recording this in my cabin at 0240 ship time. I have not slept. I do not yet know whether I am going to. Here is what we know. The deaths on the station were administered. The vector was almost certainly the air filtration system. The agent has degraded past detection. We cannot prove the manner of death with the evidence available to us, and we will not be able to prove it 42 years from now any better than we can prove it today. The crew of the station died over a 6-week period in a manner deliberately designed to look like nothing in particular while it was happening. They did not run because they were never given the kind of crisis that produces running. The decision was taken from them slowly, in increments small enough to feel like ordinary fatigue, until they no longer had the executive function to make a decision. The signal we have been chasing for 48 days is not a signal. It does not arrive. It does not propagate. It is present at every sensor we point at it, simultaneously, regardless of where the sensor is. That is not a metaphor. The signal is in this room as I record this. It is in your room as you watch this. It does not care that we are observing it. It is behaving less like an observable thing and more like a property of the space we occupy. Marchetti understood what was happening to him and his crew. He recorded 12 seconds of conclusion at the end, and he did not finish the sentence. He did not believe it was an accident. He intended to name what he believed instead, and he did not have time. Amara is going to build a framework that explains how the signal exists the way it exists. Cross is going to tell her what the Ardennes actually saw in 2063. I am going to find out who is responsible for the station and for the deaths on it. How? I do not yet know. I do not have the leverage yet. What I have is a curve drawn in black marker on the wall of a medical bay that will not be cleaned, a recovered terminal sitting on a common room table on my ship, and a man at the head of that table who has carried this alone for 42 years and is not going to carry it alone anymore. My father used to tell me that the worst things human beings do to each other do not look like the worst things while they are being done. They look like ordinary things, like fatigue, like sleep. The dangerous people in the world, he said, are not the ones who hurt you in a way you can see. They are the ones who can make a wound look like the weather. I have been thinking about my father a great deal in the last 2 days. Whoever did this to that station did not need them dead in a hurry. They needed them dead in a way that would not look like dying, broadcasting around a signal that does not behave like a signal. That is a great many things that do not look like what they are. I am going to find out who is good enough at making things not look like what they are to do all of that at once. I am going to find out before they find me. The fault is on coast. The station is 2 kilometers off our nose. Cross is in the common room. The others are scattered. Amara at her console, Saya in her bunk, Tomás in engineering. The signal is everywhere. I'm Declan Shaw. The dead on that station did not get to finish their sentence. We are going to finish it for them. I'll see you next jump.
They have not transmitted in 48 hours. They have not moved in 48 hours. They are at the station. What do they know?